Welcome to the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast, powered by Hiscox. I'm your host, Sanjay Parekh. Throughout my career, I've had side hustles, some of which have turned into real businesses. But first and foremost, I'm a serial technology entrepreneur. In the creator space, we hear plenty of advice on how to hustle harder and why you can sleep when you're dead. On this show, we ask new questions in hopes of getting new answers. Questions like, how can small businesses work smarter? How do you achieve balance between work and family? How can we redefine success in our businesses so that we don't burn out after year 3? Every week, I sit down with business founders at various stages of their side hustle to small business journey. These entrepreneurs are pushing the envelope while keeping their values. Keep listening for conversation, context, and camaraderie. Today's guest is Nikky Wainwright, the founder of Diva's Treasure Closet, a luxury designer and vintage e-commerce business. Nikky, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm excited to have you on because not often do I have somebody else that's right here in Atlanta on the show. So it's fun to have you on. But before we start talking about all the fun things about Atlanta, give us a little bit about your background and what got you to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, so I'm not an AT-alien or alien, whatever they call it. That's not her. She is not me. I am a Chicagoan. So I came from Chicago, and I started reselling in college. Actually, I did it to make some extra money. Broke in college. So I started off by selling my daughter's old clothes because her grandmother would buy her the fanciest clothes, and I don't know why, but she would. And I'm like, I'm not giving these away. So I would sell them. And then I was like, well, if I could sell this, maybe I should sell other stuff. So then I started selling my school books. College books are expensive and they give you like 2 cents when you sell them back to the bookstore, right? So I was like, no, this isn't right. And I think that's right around the time Amazon was only selling books. And I think that's where I sold them, honestly. And then from there, estate sales, church sales, I started doing that. And it was really just kind of like a hustle and a hobby. And it expanded to other categories. I moved back to Chicago eventually. I started picking up other categories, started getting more vintage stuff, started getting more luxury stuff. And then 2020 happened. And when 2020 happened and everything else I had going on was like gone, I was like, well, that was still going strong. People were still buying stuff. And that's when I decided just to go like full on. So I went ahead and registered in the state of Georgia and became official. And since then, we've grown and expanded. So Diva's Treasure Closet, yes, we're online. We're on multiple platforms or whatever, but we're also in Westside Market, Druid Hills, Suite 306. We're there too. And a consignment division is opening up. A mobile styling division is opening up. So I'm really excited on where we're going.
So I'll tell you, I also am not originally from Atlanta. I'm from Kentucky, born and raised. So I think the vast majority of us that are in Atlanta are not originally from Atlanta. When you find somebody that's born and raised here, they're like a unicorn almost. But anyways, let's focus on kind of your entrepreneurial journey. So it sounds like this kind of really started for you in college. Was this kind of, obviously it was born on the back of like money and needing funding and making sure that you had the money to do things. But did you have other entrepreneurs in the family that you saw when you were growing up or anything else like that?
Nope. Absolutely not. I didn't. But, I started working at an early age, and I was working like amongst entrepreneurs. I remember my first job was like at 12, and in Chicago, we have this place called like Swaparama where people go and they sell stuff. Everybody got different categories. I used to work for this guy who sold paint. He was like a full-on entrepreneur. He's married with kids, and I'd help him sell paint, and he'd pay me. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe it was, my first like experience of selling stuff. But I'm like, right. Yeah, people bought it. And, when I said a couple things, people that didn't want to buy it suddenly wanted to buy it. So I guess I started practicing really young, and I got into sales and retail and actually in high school, I started working for Old Navy and Baker's Shoe Store, which I think, they passed away some years back. But I started working for that. So that's when I got my, foot in a door with retail, customer service, things like that. And I saw what was going on there. So I guess along the way, I was kind of like shaped and groomed and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
For the moment that we're at right now with Diva Strategy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great skill to have as you're growing up to be able to do sales, because that is a thing that I think a lot of people end up shying away from. But I got to ask you a question about the paint. Was this guy making paint, or like, what was the story of the paint?
Okay. At the time, I had no clue. But now that, I know a little bit about acquisition and things like that and overstocks, and he may have been buying like pallets, or overstocks from like a Home Depot, Lowe's type of deal, whatever. Maybe they were damaged. Maybe they were customer returns. And then he would just sell them at a discounted rate. So,
Interesting. Okay. So let's kind of zoom in. So this was all born out of the pandemic, 2020, you kind of launched all this. Was there anything that made you nervous about starting at that time? I mean, obviously, like you said, so many things had fallen away, so maybe there was no downside, but was there anything that made you nervous about trying to go all in and start something new during that time?
No, because I didn't really have anything to lose. I wasn't doing anything else. And I had been selling, I've been reselling for over 20 years. So it wasn't really new. It was just more official.
Yeah.
So, none of it was new to me, really. Now, I would say the newest thing would have been like launching my Shopify. Like that was new. But other than that, I'd been selling on eBay since the early 2000s.
Right. So, how did you decide to go with this kind of like strategy or these products and styles? Like, why did you think that was the perfect place for you?
You mean Shopify?
No, not Shopify, like the actual products and styles that you sell that you decided to pick and be like, okay, this is the niche I'm going after. I'm going after this specific part of the market.
Because over the years, that's what sold the most,
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at my own, doing my own market research from my past successes, I knew, what people wanted. And that's what I went for. And I'm very happy I went with those categories because they do very well, because I was, I guess, on trend or trending with, the used luxury before this big push for upcycled stuff started really coming out. Like I was already doing it. So I'm like, you guys are late to the game. I've been reselling old Louis for years, So
it's like that Wayne Gretzky quote, right? You don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck is going to be, and that's what you did. You skated to where it was going to be. Maybe if you didn't even realize it was going to be.
I didn't. I really didn't realize. I just know people because aside from the sales, I mean, I went to school. I double majored in criminal justice psychology and I minored in sociology. So, and I'm a gig worker on the side, and that's all marketing. So you combine all of that, and I kind of use everything. I pull from everything. I pull from the psychology, sociology, the marketing, the sales, and then I create this, this winner over here.
Yeah. So you mentioned where you used to get stuff, estate sales and all that. Is that still the source for you, or where do you get your goods now?
No, I still can do it that way. I do have customers like that I will either do consignment or I'll just do buyouts, and I meet them while I'm on sourcing journeys and stuff because I network. I'm like a little network queen. So I'll talk to people, they'll talk to me. And so I have people that have called me like, hey, I have some stuff. And I'm like, okay, send me photos or let's set up a video. And I'll take a look at it and I'll tell them what I'm willing to do with it. If I'm willing to just do a buyout or if I'm willing to sell some of the pieces just for, consignment. And we'll talk about those splits. So yes. So some of the stuff just comes to me. I mean, I have a relationship with Trash Out personnel. I don't know if you know what a Trash Out company is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but explain it for our listeners.
Okay. So they're at home sometimes that, unfortunately there are deaths in the family or, the bank needs them back for whatever reason. And a lot of times they're still stocked with stuff. So they'll pay a company to come and clear out the stuff, and they don't care what's done with it. Sometimes maybe the family will pick through, but sometimes they just say, get everything out. You have a week. So these guys or girls or whoever's working it, they have to get all this stuff out. So I got relationships with some of those people. So they'll call me and they say, hey, Nikky, I got this. I got a bunch of, vintage jewelry. I have a bunch of, name brand, gym shoes. One time I bought a whole boutique because she passed away and, they needed to get rid of it. And I offered them a price and they said, okay. And next thing you know, I pretty much acquired her, boutique as well. So yeah, it's all over the place. Major, I would say major retailers, because one thing I think that sets me apart is a lot of times I can get in merchandise that's still at like Saks and Nordstrom's and things like that. So, and I can, pass on those savings to my customers.
Okay, let's talk about, and it sounds like you've done a good bit of this. What is the role of social media and e-commerce play in kind of your strategy? You mentioned Shopify before, but how does that play into the business strategy?
Well, I'm glad I have Shopify because as great as it is to, be on eBay and Poshmark and Mercari and Vestiaire, they take astronomical percentages. And then, you're kind of just at the mercy of what they say you can and can't do. So I wanted, something of my own, something to have. So that's where the Shopify, came into place, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Well, what about social media? How does that play into the business?
I'm not going to lie. I already had a customer base. So I've been a little lazy. I know I should do more on social media. We do have social media pages. Don't get me wrong. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Pinterest. We're on all the, major platforms. We do post, not as much as we should. And that is actually, on our to-do list. We're going to frequently, post more and maybe do a couple giveaways to get our engagements up. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I've seen people start way after me and are further in this than me because of social media. So it's powerful. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there one over the other that you think is going to be the real driver for your business? For me,
that's hard because I want to say TikTok. I don't really want to sell on TikTok, but I want to use that platform for my customers, to kind of see things. So it's going to be between TikTok and Instagram. I know they're going to, pretty much go neck to neck in that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about competition, because you mentioned that a little bit just there, that people started after you and have now exceeded you because of their skills, I guess, at social media. How do you handle that? How do you handle the competition, and how do you differentiate yourself in a market like this?
I know this is going to sound really crazy, but I don't really see myself having competition because, there's enough for everybody to eat. I think you start competing with people when you're doing the exact same thing and selling the exact same thing. When you're mimicking someone, then you're pretty much their competition. I'm in my own lane. The stuff I get from Vintage, you probably couldn't find it anywhere else. Some of the stuff is so unique. I have no competition. They're one of, yeah. So I don't really think of it like that. It's more so just to keep going and keep it fresh, and get new stuff out there. I learned from other, sellers or whatever, but I don't necessarily think I'm competing. No.
Yeah. Interesting. Is there some skill that you think is kind of most important for the success you've had in retail or fashion entrepreneurship?
I would say stay informed, go with your gut. Both of those are really important because you want to know what's going on. If you're not paying attention to trends, you won't know what really to focus your, attention on and your inventory on. Right now, there's a big resurgence of the 90s, 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 90s. So, you get your hands on some, Y2K or some 90s stuff. It's like gold, but you kind of have to know these things, you kind of, have to keep your ear to the ground. I'm a socialite. I go out, I watch what people are wearing. I look at, fashion, stuff. I kind of listen to these things, and I use that, to my advantage. Oh, that's what we're doing now. All right, fine. I'm looking at swim week. I'm looking at runway shows. I'm like, oh, okay, I have things similar to that and I'll style it, similar to that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to regret the fact that I got rid of my 80s jean jacket at some point.
You are. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have Bronson and 80s, 90s, Levi's and things like that. And they're worth a pretty penny. So yeah.
Yeah, mine probably wasn't going to be worth that much because it was all drawn on by my friends
And
during
that's
junior
probably what
high
was
and
going to
stuff.
make it worth even more because it.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me
It's
that.
yeah, because you definitely can say, it was custom.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was definitely a one of a kind, and some of the art on there, those people they're not around anymore, and so the art
It's
was
custom.
unique.
It was
Yeah,
custom, and it
yeah,
would have probably
exactly.
went for a pretty penny, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm going to try to not to believe that because I
Okay.
don't have it anymore. Okay, Nikki, let's talk about kind of the balancing the business against kind of life. Like for you, the business that you're in, like you see it all day long, right? Because you're in fashion, you see clothes and all that kind of stuff. Do you do anything to kind of make sure that you separate these things out, like life and, family and business so that they don't blend in together?
Well, they blend in together because my family works for the business.
So do you have any rules then to keep these things separate? Like at dinner time, like we don't talk about business or anything else like that?
Well, see, the great thing about like being online and like having that store is, yes, I dedicate certain days, when I want to go in the store and, refresh and add more inventory, and the business, it kind of runs itself once the inventory is out there. So, if I have a photography day, like today might be a photography day. Once I put that stuff up, when it sells, we get the ding. My son, his job is packing and shipping and inventory updates. Then it's passed on to him. And then that's how it goes. So, I feel like there's a great balance there. So it's not just, work, DTC, DTC, DTC. No, probably should be more of that, but it's not. It's more chill.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's a family affair, it sounds like, in running the business. How do you think about that then when, you might want to take a vacation because the whole business might be going with you at that point, and it's kind of hard to fulfill orders when there's nobody there with the stock?
So yes, we do the family vacations, and that's the only time that, my son, isn't there to do it. That doesn't happen very often. We may do like maybe 2 or 3, and we're only going like, 4 or 5 days tops. So we'll get all customer orders out before we leave. And then I will notify those customers, if we get some, some sales. Because I never go on vacation from the business. I know some sellers do. I don't. I'll just tell them like, hey, is it okay if this is, sent out, by end of week, we'll get this out to you. And then I'll always add like a little gift or something in there, for their patience, some kind of little token that they're appreciated. But like I said, that rarely happens because normally I do a lot of solo traveling and my son is here. So I know he'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Is there anything else that you kind of make sure you plan around in terms of the business so that it doesn't interfere with life or family or anything else like that?
Not that I can think of. I've been doing it so long that, it's almost on autopilot. You know what I mean, Sanjay?
Yeah.
It's almost on autopilot because this isn't new for me. I've been, it's almost like me being a mom. I don't know how to not be a mom. I've been a mom for 27 years, So
right.
It's the same thing. I've had this business, even though, technically it became legit 2020 for so long that I literally am in bed watching movies or in flights and I'm listing. I'm doing specials, so I can pretty much take it with me.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's it's interesting. I see the good side of that being kind of natural and automatic and on cruise control. But is there a downside of that too? Because you're not as necessarily like hungry or whatever, right? Like, do you see that as a difference? Do you feel like it's created any kind of complacency for yourself?
I do. And I get reminded because like I said, I do gig work on the side and that's kind of like my travel money. And so when that dries up, that's when I'm like, I can do more. What am I doing? And that's when I kind of, pick up some stuff or, do something special or, just kind of do more, But I am also about to hire another part-time employee outside of the family too. So that's going to help too. They're going to, pretty much be over like the vintage, section and stuff. So yeah. So I'm automating it a little bit more outside of just me. Because that's what I need. I know I do. so I can kind of just unwind and detach a little bit more when I need to.
Yeah. So it sounds like the business is growing. Where else do you see the business going? Like, what do you think you might add on in the future?
We're looking to add on a mobile styling division. So I'm excited about that. Yes. So, customers local, it'll start off local, and then you never know, maybe we can go national, get stylists in other cities. So it will start off local. Well, on the website, you'll have a chance to go on there and, select like what you're trying to do. You can select your look, your sizes, things like that. And we'll get you a stylist to come to you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we'll get your stylist to come to you with what you selected. And then from there, you have an opportunity to rent or purchase.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. What's driving that kind of thought of doing that? Has there been demand from customers, or like, where did this idea come from?
I did a luxury pop-up here in Atlanta back in 2023, I believe it was. And I felt like I didn't have anything to wear. So I went to a place here because you can go and you can like rent clothes, but going in traffic and all that stuff, having to leave, that took a lot of time, and I was just like, man, this took like 4 hours out of my day, with traffic, going from, here to the city to Miami Circle, wherever I went. And I was like, man, it would have been great if they could have just came to me.
Yeah.
If they could have just came to me, if I could have just filled out like, hey, and yes, they have those, companies where you can mail it. They'll mail the stuff to you, like Rent the Runaway and things like that. And those are great. But I've used those services and they're hit or miss. It could come and not look like I thought it was going to look like,
Right.
So now if we're coming to you, we know what everything's look like. We're starting to learn your style and everything. And then that could be a repeat customer as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For those listeners who aren't in Atlanta, you've got to recognize that if you try to go anywhere in Atlanta, it doesn't matter where it is, you should just plan for at least 45 minutes of drive time because that's Atlanta.
Each way.
Each way. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean total. Yeah. Each way, at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If you want to attempt to be on time. Probably an hour if you're really wanting to be on time, given how crazy our traffic is. So, okay, Nikky, this has been really interesting. I got a couple more questions for you. Thinking back about, like this whole time that you've been doing this stuff, maybe even back to the very beginning during college, if you could go back in time and do something differently, is there something that you do differently? And if so, what is that and why?
Absolutely, I would have done something different. One of the biggest things I would have done, I would have hopped on social media as soon as, in 2020, like as soon as I went full on, that I should have started streaming, I should have started doing videos. I should have pushed more because, so many people like blew up, during that era when we were at home. We needed something to watch, something to do. So I really wish I would have took advantage of those moments. So if I could go back, I absolutely would have done it. My best friend, who also owns, a resale company, she did it and she was new to it and she blew up. And I'm looking at her and I'm so happy for her because I love her to death. But I'm like, man, I've been doing this for so long and you did this. What am I doing wrong? But she told me though, she was like, hey, you need to do unboxing. You need to just get on there and just say stuff. And I wish I would have listened to her. I wish I would have done that. So that's one thing that I really wish I would have done. So I was saying that.
Yeah, that's one thing. And even entrepreneurs obviously have this issue is that we worry about, well, if I do it, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly right or whatever. Like, was that the thing that held you back? What was it that held you back from doing social so early? That's
very easy. Absolutely 100% pure laziness. Yeah. Just didn't. I don't have an excuse. I can't put it on anything. I just didn't do it. I wasn't too busy not to or anything like that. I'm not camera shy, I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I own it. Should have and didn't.
That's a good thing to own, right? As entrepreneurs, we got to own our mistakes.
Yeah.
And so if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And, at least now you have an easy way to fix it in the future because there's still nothing holding you back, right? You just got to do it.
That's
what
right.
it boils down to. So, okay, Nikky, last question for you. If you were talking to somebody that's thinking about doing the same thing as you, like launching a side hustle or taking that side hustle and launching it into a full-time business like you've done, what advice would you give to them?
Whoa. Okay. That was probably the second thing I wish I would have done. I would say try your very best not to bootstrap. Yeah, that's one thing I would say, because that was pretty much what I did for a very long time. Once they tell you that 6 months when you got your business and you got that business checking, all that, immediately start going for, lines of credit, start applying for those grants, start getting those business, credit cards, start doing that, because I found myself into some situations, bootstrapping, and I don't recommend that for anyone. So that's probably one of the biggest advices that I would give, just across the board for business in general. Now, for reselling, I would definitely say, even though I got all these categories and I could probably sell anything, pick something. Don't do what I did necessarily. Just pick something. Pick shoes, or pick hats. Like kind of just pick something, because I am all over the place and I'm okay, but it can be kind of difficult, overwhelming, and a little crazy. So
yeah, I want to make sure I understand your kind of recommendation there of not bootstrapping. So you don't mean don't bootstrap and try to go out and get outside investors. You mean leverage lines of credit, grants, things like that.
I mean, don't go on the hole with your own money. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, you can go other people's money. Absolutely. OTP is always the way. But yeah, because I got into a few pickles, running out my own credit cards, because I got a little overzealous with, seeing some deals, and it was game changing when I accessed business credit and things like that. It was like, whoa. And to get investors, because I do have one investor, and it's kind of like a pilot program, and it's going good so far. And I'll probably be able to open that up, in due time. But that helps too,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Super, super fascinating, Nikky. Where can our listeners find and connect with you online?
Okay. Well, Diva's Treasure Closet. That's me, the one and only. So you Google that and you're going to see everything you need to see. But absolutely, if you're in the Atlanta area, I definitely recommend that you stop by Westside Market, the one in Druid Hills, Toco Hills, Westside Market, Suite 306. In person, you can find merchandise there, and I try to put fresh things in there every week. If you're not online, divastreasurecloset.com. I'm on there. I'm on other platforms as well. So if you're more comfortable, purchasing from a Poshmark or eBay or Mercari, you'll find me there as well. I have a pretty big following on those sites as well. So yeah. And Instagram
awesome.
and TikTok, of course.
There you go. Awesome, Nikky. This has been great. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. To learn more about how Hiscox can help protect your small business through intelligent insurance solutions, visit hiscox.com. That's HISCOX.com. And if you have a story you want to hear on this podcast, please visit hiscox.com/share your story. I'm your host, Sanjay Parikh. You can find out more about me at my website, sanjayparikh.com.